All right, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating idea. The thought that faith isn't just for individuals, but that it's actually part of a divine plan for entire nations. We're going to explore a perspective that connects ancient promises with a very modern global movement. So let's just start with the big question this all brings up. We usually think of faith as this deeply personal, one-on-one journey. But what if the original plan was always something bigger? What if it was always about entire peoples, entire nations? Well, according to the text we're looking at today, that's not just some side idea. It's the whole point. And we're not just talking about some minor theme here. According to this source material, this is the central plot of a story that spans thousands of years. The core idea is that the endgame was never just about saving individuals one by one, but about restoring whole nations. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go way back to the beginning, to a foundational promise that's known as the Abrahamic Covenant. This is where this whole perspective says it all gets started. And here it is. This is the verse that's basically the cornerstone for this entire idea. The promise that was made to Abraham, it's not just about his family line. It explicitly, right there in the text, uses the phrase many nations. That little phrase is the foundation for everything else that comes after. And just think about the sheer scope of that promise. It's huge. The text makes it really clear that this wasn't some exclusive deal. Nope. It was designed from the get-go to be a blessing for all the nations of the earth, reaching way, way beyond the person who first received it. And just to give you an idea of how significant this theme is, the word nations is mentioned over 500 times in the Bible. So this isn't some tiny detail you could miss. It is a recurring central idea. So if the plan was for all nations, what happened? What went wrong? All right, so that brings us to the next chapter in this story, how that original unified plan got completely disrupted, and how that led to this huge separation among the peoples of the world. So how does this viewpoint explain the problem? Well, it's like this. It says, many nations just turned their backs on the covenant. By choosing to worship other deities, which are described here as strange gods, they essentially broke the deal and stepped outside of all its promised blessings. And this slide, wow, it really lays out the result of that separation. It created this great divide. On one side, you've got Israel, which the text defines as a people chosen by God. And then on the other side, you have all the other nations, the Gentiles, who are described as having become hostile to God. Okay, so if the covenant was broken and nations were split apart, was there a way back? The source material we're looking at presents a theological solution, a specific path to get everything back on track. And this is the absolute turning point, according to this text. It says that Jesus' life and sacrifice build a bridge, basically, making a way for all those separated nations to return to the original covenant. He's presented as the key to this whole grand restoration project. And what's interesting is, this perspective argues that this idea wasn't new at all. It was actually foretold in prophecies, like this one right here from the Book of Psalms, which talks about the nations of the world as an inheritance, just waiting to be reclaimed. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. We're going to pivot from thousands of years of theology to a very modern, very personal story. Let's take a look at the testimony of how this ministry, Nations of Faith, actually got started. You might be surprised to hear its origin was actually pretty humble. It didn't start as some big organization. It was just a small online forum, a little follow-up group for people from different countries who had connected with the group's leader for prayer. But then, everything changed. One night, there was this pivotal moment. The leader describes having this incredibly powerful, vivid dream. And in this dream, she saw all the members of her little international forum all gathered together under one single massive tent. And this is the real climax of that story. In the dream, she asks the people, "Who are you?" And a woman gives this simple, direct answer that would change everything. "We are the nations of faith." And just like that, a new name and a whole new mission were born. So that dream wasn't just about a new name. It was so much more. It totally crystallized the group's mission to pray for the entire world and to achieve a truly global reach. And believe me, when they say global, they mean global. The ministry started growing to include members from all over North America and Europe. We're talking Canada, France, Germany, Belgium, and it started spreading deep into Africa, with people joining from Kenya, South Africa, Zambia, and Cameroon. A really strong presence developed in the USA as well, connecting people from totally different cultures and backgrounds, all under this one banner. The mission just kept expanding, creating this network of believers that truly spanned continents. And the list just keeps going. Soon you have members from Nigeria, from Colombia and South America, from India and Korea over in Asia, from Jamaica in the Caribbean, and so many other places. It was really fulfilling that vision from the dream of a single global tent. And all of this really comes together in this one ultimate theological vision, which is summed up perfectly by this verse from Revelation. It's this idea that the final goal is a community made up of people from every tribe and language and people and nation. It's the perfect bow that ties that ancient promise together with their modern mission. So after all that, this whole framework leaves us with a really big question for our own time, right? In a world that is more connected, more globalized than ever before, what does it actually mean for an entire nation to have faith? Definitely something to think about.